Hello, welcome back. It's Sarah from Roadworthy. I am doing a monthly wrap up today. I am on the Olympic Peninsula. This is Hood Canal behind me. Olympic National Park is right over there, which you can't see. Um, I am camping on top of this ridge that you can probably tell has been clear cut. Uh, but one of the nice things about a clear cut is you get the amazing view. You can't see it today. We have too much cloud, but yesterday you could see Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Adams, and Mount Baker. So it was pretty epic. And you can see far up the canal, far down the canal. It was fantastic. But a little cloudy today. So I wanted to do a little bit of a summary of my May reading. I read 10 books total, which I've never really summed up my reading before, very consistently. So I don't, it feels normal. Um, I read 6 books for Gray and May, which was the readathon that Sarah over at Eyes on Indie and I did over on her Discord channel. So that was great. And then I read 3 books really for Mental Health May, which is the readathon hosted by Marilyn Maya Mendoza and Kim at Middle of the March. So that was great. I think the 3 books that I have 3 books, and when I looked at all the books from May that I had read, there were really 3 that stood out as books that I really continue to think about. So the first one is Brickmakers by Selva Armada, and that was translated by Annie McDermott. This was a group read for Gray and May, but it was also the first book that I read in the month. And I just really the book is about 2 families of brickmakers in Argentina. And there's this feud with the fathers that gets carried down to the sons. And the book opens with 2 of the sons have killed one another, and they're dying at the edge of a Ferris wheel. And so the book is sort of them going in and out of sort of dreams and consciousness, and as they're dying, sort of retelling memories, and you sort of get the story of this rivalry. I just really, really loved the writing. I loved just the portrayal of toxic masculinity and the societal expectations on men, fathers, husbands, sons. I don't typically like sort of fever dreams and hallucinations and those kinds of things in my fiction. I often find it very um just difficult sometimes to know what's happening, or I don't know. It tends not to work for me, but I really liked it in this book. It was very clear, this was a dream state, and so there was no confusion on what was dream, what was reality, what was memory. I just, for me, it worked. Anyway, I really, really, really enjoyed this book, and glad that Gray and May gave me a chance to finally get to it. Another book that I read for Gray and May was Abundance by Jacob Guanzon. Um, and this book opens with a father and his, I don't know, 7-year-old son living out of out of the truck. Um, and it's the son's birthday, and sort of his father trying to celebrate the day and make it special. Why I wanted to include this book in the discussion was I just could not stop thinking about this book and how unsettling this book is. Um, as the book goes on, you sort of get um, Henry, the father, his reminiscence about when he was a kid. Um, and you sort of see sort of the cycles of poverty and how hard it is to break. And once things, emergencies happen or things happen and you get knocked back, how hard it is to climb back out of that. Um, despite how hard you work, or the choices that you make, or even if when you're doing the right thing, it's incredibly hard to break those cycles. The other thing too is I've always intellectually known how cruel we are to ex-convicts. Um, supposedly prison is where you do your time. Tuck and roll. God. Okay, we're rolling with the wind here. But and so I've always known most felons in most states can't vote. They've been disenfranchised. They often can't get federal aid or state aid. So now housing subsidies, food subsidies, child support, nothing, right? And so we continue to punish people even after they've served their time. I've always known that intellectually, but to see it here on the page is really hard. Henry is as a felon, and you sort of go through the story of what happened. Um, and his son is born while he is in prison. And even though he turned state witness, right? He's still, he loses his home. He you have to disclose you're a felon when you apply for a job. So it's very challenging to get a job, very challenging, you know, and he's incredibly challenged to feed and care for his son. And it's just hard to read on the page. So again, a book that I continue to think about. Um, yeah, that it very impactful. Um, the other book that I wanted to talk about was and then she fell by Samantha Elliott. Oh my God, I don't have her name written down because it was so like duh. Um, oh my God, I will put her name here if I have it wrong. Um, but this is a book. Uh, Elliott is a Indigenous writer from Canada, and this book was nominated for the Women's Prize. Um, and this book really is about our main character who is suffering from postpartum psychosis. She and it's told from her perspective. And I think what Elliott does really well is she she gradually shows her descent into psychosis, and you can see the character wrestling with, oh my god, is it, am I losing my mind, or are people really turning against me? um and what's interesting is her husband is white. They're living in a sort of wealthy white suburb of Toronto. And so there are definite examples of racism and sexism that happen. But then there are other examples where she's questioning, and you as a reader are questioning, wait, is this just her interpretation? Did it really happen this way? Um, a- and again, you as a reader objectively know she's becoming delusional. And so again, it starts to become very hard as a reader to parse out, um is her husband a jerk? Is he just oblivious? Like, does he not realize what's going on? Because that's her perspective, right? And so it's hard to know objectively what really is going on. Um, so to me, I found this very well done. Um, I, I- Melinda over at Web of Stories talked about this book, and she talked about her experience with mental health struggles as postpartum and how that really made this book a much more rich experience. And I definitely think having, uh, knowledge, if not firsthand experience with significant mental health struggles, I think for sure does make this a richer reading experience. Um, I know people reading this for the Women's Prize had, I feel like, mixed responses, and this book did not get shortlisted for the Women's Prize. I was trying to think of, is this the first Indigenous author who's been nominated for the Women's Prize? Um, I think so, but do correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like that was significant, and I don't recall anybody talking about that. And I think when I've heard some readers who are not North American talking about this book, not really picking up on some of the racism and the cultural identity issues being struggled with in this book. Um, so interesting. So I felt like it was very positive that this book got nominated, and perhaps there'll be more Indigenous books in the future getting nominated and helping other readers become aware of these issues. And the Women's Prize is a big prize, and so uh, you know, even if it's bringing more American and Canadian readers uh, into contact with Indigenous readers, I think that that's a positive thing. So I just wanted to call that out because I don't really think it's been mentioned. That I think this is a little bit of a milestone book that it was nominated. Um, and I read Elliott's essay collection. Uh, Talking about her struggles with mental health, particularly depression, um, which I thought was very good. So she's definitely a writer that I will continue to uh, watch and be interested in reading whatever she puts out. So these are the three books from May that I read that I really wanted to talk about and have an opportunity to encourage more readers to pick up um, and give a try. I definitely think that they're worth a shot, and these were definitely the books that I thought about the most over the month. So um, I wanted to call that out as well. So I hope you're enjoying the outside view. And hope you all had a great reading May, and hope June is gonna be good. All right. See ya.